Hi, I'm Peggy, and as you know, I have been uploading a lot of lymphedema-related videos this month in honor of Lymphedema Awareness Month 2018. And today I have an amazing video that is going to be so informative. You are not going to want to miss this. Now, it is only going to apply to my American viewers because we are going to talk about the Lymphedema Treatment Act, which is a piece of legislation that we have been trying to get passed for some time. Now, I hope everyone that is listening has heard of it, but if you haven't, you need to know about this. And if you have, I think that we are going to find out how we can get even more involved. Joining me via Skype is Patricia Egan, and she is a board member. She is a lymphedema advocate, and she also has primary lymphedema. Her family has suffered from lymphedema, so she completely understands this crazy thing that we're all going through and the importance of getting this legislation passed so that insurance companies will help us with treatment and supplies and things that we desperately need for our health and so that we can continue to live a good life. So let's get Patricia on the line. Hi, Pat. How are you doing today?
Fine, Peggy. Thank you so much for hosting this wonderful video.
Well, I'm really excited because this is information that I really feel that we all need to know about. And I think you're a genius. I think you're really smart, and you write these great emails, and I get these emails in my inbox and I'm like, ah! So I thought it was really important for some of us that get overwhelmed by the emails and all the details that are going on, if we just talk face to face or Skype to Skype, and really you can tell us what's going on. This legislation has been in the works for quite some time. So I know when it first started, I really, tried to get involved, and then I got overwhelmed. And so I appreciate people like you that have not dropped the ball, that have just been pushing through. But you told me something the other day that was really impactful. You said, we need to get this passed this year. It's important. We're at a deadline now. We're at a crossroads, so it's time. So tell us in a nutshell what this legislation is about, and then we're just going to go from there.
So the Lymphedema Treatment Act is a very small but powerful piece of legislation. It's only 3 pages, double-spaced. But what it does is it provides Medicare coverage for lymphedema compression garments and supplies, which you and I both know we must have every day. These are not the compression garments. In fact, I brought one with me to show.
Right.
These are not the compression garments that you buy at the corner store. These are prescription, and they're prescription for a reason. They're prescription because you need to have correctly fitted and properly assessed pressure on your limbs or anywhere that you have lymphedema. That compression is what keeps you out of the hospital. It's what keeps your lymphedema from getting worse. It's the one thing that patients can do every day as part of their self-care management. Right now, just because of a glitch in Medicare rules and regulations, they'll cover pumps, they'll cover therapy, they'll cover extremely expensive hospitalization stays if you end up with a cellulitis infection. But they won't cover the day in, day out compression garments and supplies that we must have and wear. So the bill takes care of that glitch, and it provides coverage.
Now, in case some people don't realize, wearing a compression garment helps keep those lymphatic fluids from settling, which a lymphatic fluid is, and I'm throwing this in because, even if you don't have lymphedema, we need your help. maybe somebody that you know has lymphedema, or maybe you're just a human being that cares. So the lymph fluid settles and it's unoxygenated. It's a breeding ground for disease, and the compression garment helps to move that out. It's a day-to-day thing that we can do to help get that swelling down, get those lymph fluids out of there. Now, to give people an idea, I have lymphedema in my left leg and my abdomen, so I wear a 3/4 compression garment with a toe cap. And I think out of pocket, it's about $900. And we need a new compression garment every 6 months. I actually have a compression garment because I'm, kind of got behind. Once it's always a fight. You have to fight. And I actually have a hole in the heel of my compression garment, and it's no good, if it's not. So that's why this is so important. Now, tell me where we stand. This has been going on for years. It's something simple. And the loophole is because it's not a durable, what's the loophole? I can't remember. I want to say it correctly.
It's a durable medical equipment because it doesn't last at least a year, because the life of these garments is about 6 months, and that's with good care. Cold water wash, cold water rinse, no fabric softeners, all that kind of good things. Because the supplies and garments don't fall into the definition of a durable medical equipment, DME, it's not covered. And we've gone to 2 secretaries of Health and Human Resources, Health and Human Services in past administrations, and they've just said, well, it's not in the law, and so if you want to put it in the law, you need to take it to Congress. And that's why these bills are here. Fortunately, the member of Congress, Representative David Reichert from the 8th District in the state of Washington, he's the man who has introduced this legislation, and he had a very good testimony before the House Ways and Means Committee in February, and the new HHS Secretary Alex Azar was there, and for the first time we have an HHS Secretary who has committed his support for this bill. So that is a breakthrough.
That is a breakthrough. Now, let me explain, in case, again, somebody's listening that doesn't understand. Lymphedema is a big word, just like cancer is a big word. But lymphedema, you have primary lymphedema. You were born. I have secondary lymphedema. Mine was caused by an injury. There are people that get lymphedema. It's very common for women to get lymphedema after a mastectomy, and after they've had their lymph nodes removed, they get lymphedema in their arm. So these are all things. Lymphedema it's a big word, but it affects a lot of people. And it has, there's different side effects or different things that lymphedema causes. You have a higher risk of cancer, you have a higher risk of disease, a higher risk of cellulitis. So this is something that it's not just a cosmetic thing. Oh, you have a swollen arm and you want me to pay for your garment. No, we have a swollen limb and we want to be able to live and work and enjoy our families and have a life without being sick all the time. So this is something, this is crucial to people's health and well-being.
So you're absolutely right, Peggy. First of all, just as cancer is not one disease, lymphedema is not one disease. The type of lymphedema that I have, which is considered a rare disease, actually, there are about more than 40 different types, distinct diseases that are classified as primary or hereditary lymphedema. Secondary lymphedema, the type that you have, is much more dominant, and that's where we're seeing the higher incidence of diagnosis. And of course, with diagnosis, which you want to have, you do not want this to go undiagnosed.
Exactly.
But with increased diagnosis comes need for treatment and care. There is no cure. And right now, there is no pharmaceutical treatment. You can't take a pill for this. I am participating in a clinical trial for a drug that's being proposed. And that clinical trial is at Stanford Medical Center under the supervision of Dr. Stanley Roxon. But that's just a clinical trial. This drug is not available, not in the United States. So our daily compression, along with our manual lymph drainage and all these different therapies, that is what we have available.
Right.
The lymphatic system very quickly is actually a lovely, delicate network that's right underneath the surface of your skin. Many of the doctors who treat it are also cardiovascular specialists. But what happens is if the lymph fluid stays in there and just builds up, you get minute breaks in the surface of the skin and infection sets in. Those infections are not to be treated lightly. Some of them do not respond to standard antibiotics. When you have a cellulitis infection that goes into gangrene, you're talking about some very serious repercussions. And in extreme circumstances, it can be deadly. This is not to be taken lightly. So I believe I gave you a graphic about lymphedema not being one disease. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all of that is documented. It was a doctor who happens to serve on our executive committee of the Lymphedema Advocacy Group, and her daughter has lymphedema. So she developed all of this, pulled together all mm-hmm. the peer-reviewed articles that underlie this graphic about lymphedema not being one disease.
And
I think if you understand that, then it makes more sense.
Exactly. And the other thing, and why it's so hard to be diagnosed sometimes, because it's not just one disease. The most, like you said, the most diagnoses are, after cancer, because, an oncologist understands a little bit more about it because it's so common. But if you just go to your regular family practitioner, I was 8 years undiagnosed, and I don't know how long you were undiagnosed. I know your family members probably were undiagnosed for years and years. And so it's so important that's why we're standing up yelling, hey, we have to be heard, we have to be known. This doesn't affect 5 or 10 people. This affects more people than you can imagine. I mean, more people than suffer from HIV, from MS, from multiple sclerosis, everything combined. There's more people suffering from lymphedema, and yet we're kind of pushed aside, and nobody wants to treat it, or nobody wants to acknowledge the severity of it. And bottom line, your lymphatic system is the largest part of your immune system. So just that alone, we don't have to say anything more, because obviously, I know when I get a cold, I'm like, I do everything because I know it's going to affect everything. I'm going to swell, I'm going to get tired, I'm going to, all these achy things. And so, I'm always on top of it. And so that's why we need this. We have to be able to be treated and taken care of so that we can do our best to stop anything.
The other point that I think is worth mentioning is that oftentimes in terms of insurance coverage, and I know you've been through it, and so have I, and so have way too many others, getting your insurance company to reimburse you for these items is really a challenge. It's just an insurance wall. But a lot of the what's reimbursed, Medicare sets a certain standard. And if Medicare will cover your compression garments and supplies, more than likely,
your insurance, exactly.
The private companies will follow suit. So there's also a very important domino effect here. So, that's to be considered too.
So I'm very fortunate. Several years ago, when I first started wearing compression garments and realized that my insurance wasn't gonna pay for it, my friend's husband, just by chance of the universe, was a insurance attorney. And so he would actually write a nasty letter to my insurance every 6 months. And, and that's how I got my compression garments. Every 6 months, it was a new fight. Every 6 months, it was a new fight. And that was their thing. Well, Medicare doesn't, See, once Medicare approves it, then it's a standard and insurance companies will approve it. Now, this last, time that I went to get a garment, I didn't have him in my back pocket anymore. So I actually found an insurance advocate, and I didn't even know that was a thing. But you have to fight. And when you don't feel good, it's really hard to fight. And so that's why I so appreciate you and the other people that are fighting for all of us. And so tell us what we can do. What can we do to get this passed? Where are we at, and what do we need to do?
So right now, this bill is actually rather amazing. Overall, across the country, we have 322 co-sponsors of H.R. 930, which is the Lymphedema Treatment Act, in the House of Representatives. That's more than the 21st Century Cures Act had. We also have 54 co-sponsors in the U.S. Senate. So that's all very good news. In the House, we have more than a supermajority, which is extraordinary. We need 6 more U.S. senators to achieve a supermajority in that body. So I'm the California state team leader, and you and I are both in California. California is actually in pretty good shape in the sense that we have both of our senators, Dianne Feinstein and Kamala Harris, on as co-sponsors. We have 37 members of the House, both Democrats and Republicans, and both House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi have been briefed on this bill, and they seem to be on board and supportive. So that's all good news. But across the country, we need 6 more U.S. senators. So if you know people, maybe friends, family members who are sympathetic and willing to make a call to their senator, send them an email, or give you permission. You need to have permission to use their address and zip code, and that's what you will be asked for when you make these calls. But you can, and then we can get 6 more senators on board.
You can tweet them, you can email them, you can call them, you can write them letters. And I know it takes a few minutes, but it doesn't cost you money. And it just takes you a few minutes. And if the more they see that their constituents, I can't even say the word, I got tongue tied, the more they see people that are saying, hey, help, we want you to do this, then they're like, okay, well, our job is to serve the people are asking for this. So
yes.
Tell your aunt, tell your cousin, tell the lady at the grocery store. Now you have information that we can get. You have, I'm going to put links in the website below so that they can look up the website. They can print stuff out. You've got list of phone numbers. You've got list of Twitter addresses. You've got everything laid out. You guys have done an amazing, and I know it's not you personally, it's everybody, but everybody has done such a great job to make this easy. All we have to do is do it. I sent out 25 tweets, and I'm not a big tweeter. I'm just getting onto Twitter. And I'm like, okay, I've sent emails. Now I'm going to send the tweets. I'm going to call. I'm going to, because they need to hear. And it's quick. It's usually a machine, and you leave all your information and you just go to the next.
So this is what I have. I've been doing this since the 113th Congress, and we're now at the 115th Congress, and each Congress is 2 years. So I've been at this for probably about 5 years. The most effective outreach that I have found are phone calls, emails. You can just go to the representative's website and there'll be an email login. You put your name, your zip code, and then a little message. Those have been effective.
You have available to us a cut and paste. You put your name and information in, and so don't feel like I don't know what to say. No, we have it for you. Just do it.
So the most important website that you can go to is www.lymphedema That's where all of your resources are. The other thing that's very helpful is going to town hall meetings. And there is a website, it's called townhallproject.org. And you can find out where there will be a town hall meeting in your district. We have had a number of people go to town hall meetings. They listen patiently while the agenda is addressed, but during QA, they stand up and they say very briefly, I have lymphedema and I need you to co-sponsor the Lymphedema Treatment Act. It's in the top 5. So co-sponsored healthcare acts in the House right now. It's number 2. Please co-sponsor. That's a very simple message. And then bring with you maybe one of the cards or print out the information packet, because usually a staff member will ask you if you have any information, you just give it to them. The other form that's very effective is to make a meeting at your district office. It's not that hard. You just ask for the scheduler and tell them you're a constituent and you want to discuss the Lymphedema Treatment Act. It's their job to get you in for a meeting. The meeting might only be 15 minutes with a field representative, but that's okay. Those field representatives will communicate that they had a meeting with you, their impression, and they will get that information to DC, and that's important. It's the health legislative aide and your member of Congress in Washington, DC, who will actually make the decision to co-sponsor or not. But if you don't want to fly to DC, this is the fast way to do it. And I have had very good success with this approach.
And when you get there face to face, wear your compression garment. Bring it with you if you have an extra one. Bring visuals. Let them see. Don't be ashamed. Let them see. Listen, this affects me. This is how it affects me. I just ordered a blue Juzo compression garment because I thought, you know what? Obviously, sometimes I don't want people to notice my leg, but sometimes I do want people to notice my leg. I want to say, hey, it's time that and that was my little, fun treat for myself. And I thought it would be really good when I'm going out talking to people, because that's noticeable, and it's something to we have such great support from Juzo. They support this act, and they are out there just really helping us out. Lots and lots of people. So please, please, please get involved. I'm going to leave, information. What else do people need to know today?
So let's see. I think the other thing that is interesting is how many of the congressional caucuses have also stepped up to support this bill. This bill is not just, medical. Armed forces, veterans get lymphedema if they've had a traumatic injury. Also, as more women have entered the military, the statistical findings are that women veterans who've been, done their service sometimes have a higher incidence of breast cancer, and the statistical number is that up to 40% of breast cancer patients will develop lymphedema within 5 years of treatment. And I know just from the people on the California state team, you could think you've got your cancer in remission, you're fine. 15 years later, all of a sudden, there's this huge swelling. The other thing is that children get lymphedema. It's not usually from pediatric cancer. It's usually more the hereditary form. Or you can get lymphedema from a mosquito bite.
A bug bite.
Yes, and I know one just darling little girl who has the same kind of lymphedema I have, and we wear the same garments. But she gets her garments in raspberry, and I wear mine in black. But, it's not just one age group. It's not just one gender. Men get lymphedema. It's a little more rare, but I've seen the types of lymphedema that men can be prone to are just debilitating. It's also an issue in the African American community, just because of getting their diagnosis and all of that. It's as much of a form of a medical challenge all around.
Early diagnosis is so important, and that's obviously a conversation for another video. But it's so important that you get diagnosed. It's so important that you start immediately taking care of yourself, wearing your compression, doing that, because I know this young girl. She used to live in my building when I was in San Diego, and she had lymphedema in her left leg also, like me. And she was early 20s, young, and still, and she talked because she saw my garment, and she was talking to me about it. And I said, she said, well, it's ugly. And I was like, it's ugly now, but if you don't treat this, it's going to get uglier, and it's going to get worse, and you're going to get sick. And, even worse when you want to treat it and you don't have the money to buy a garment and your insurance won't help you. So, that's what this is about, is, take care of yourself. And, we're all fighting for each other here. And I appreciate it. And, I know that you've had this your whole life. When did this show up? How old were you?
So I always knew, my mother and grandmother had swollen legs. My mother got her first compression garments in the 1960s because that's when they first became available in the United States. Most of the manufacturers are actually from Germany or Switzerland. At any rate, I started noticing it. For me, it crept up on me. This was not one big dramatic incident. It just kept getting more and more swollen. Someone signed my high school yearbook, "Remember me when your ankles swell." So that, she didn't mean to be mean.
Right.
But clearly others were noticing that young. It took me 35 years to get a diagnosis. I didn't know the word lymphedema.
Right.
I knew that my mother and grandmother had Milroy's disease, and when I went to doctors and said, well, I think maybe I have Milroy's disease, my mother and grandmother had it, they just said they'd never heard of Milroy's disease and gave me a diuretic, which is
terrible. Terrible. Yes, if your doctor tells you to take that, don't take it, and do research, because that can cause so many problems.
Well, now there are more, it's a lot, if you can find the term lymphedema, that's really key. So, if you go around and say, well, I think I might have, Graves' disease, nobody knows what that is. These are rare diseases. But if you can find the word lymphedema,
right,
then you can, on the internet, thank goodness for the internet, you can probably find a doctor or a therapist somewhere nearby. That's my best suggestion. But if I had gotten compression garments and proper diagnosis and treatment when I was in high school, I would not have the fibrotic tissue and all these other things going on in my legs that I do now. It took 35 years, and this is not uncommon. My story is very common.
Very common. And, even though I'm in a really good place right now, my leg is not swollen. It's, it gets puffy and so forth, but I still have that around my ankle and the top of my foot. I have so much fibrotic tissue that even when there's no swelling, you can still see that, that tissue that's damaged because, once that tissue's damaged like that, there's really nothing you can do. I've tried the laser things. I've tried a few of the little things, and then I get to the point where when I'm doing good, you don't want to mess with it. You don't want to do anything that's going to cause a flare up. And then when you're having a flare up, you need to deal with the flare up and not with that. So you just kind of, you're just kind of happy with. But, thank God there's, the compression garments are out there and they're so amazing. I mean, it's night and day, and they measure you and they come in and you put them on and you're like, oh my God, it's awesome. It's really good. So,
and you can get more colors, and I mean, it doesn't have to be hospital beige. Because of my legs, I just wear black slacks every day, and so I get my garments in black. There are also, they're called Expanda socks that you can put over them, and they come over in different colors and designs if you want something a little more fun. But all of the garment manufacturers, Medi, Juzo, Sigvaris, most of them all are behind this act because they know how important this is. That's where we receive our sponsorship from. So what I would leave viewers with is to please go online. If you don't have a computer, go to your public library, pull up www.lymphedema-treatment-act.org. and just scroll around that website. It has a wealth of information. Sign up for the state team, enter your patient's story, and make that, you were talking about one representative and 2 senators. Mm-hmm. So that's 3. Mm-hmm. An email, a Twitter tweet. I don't find U.S. postal mail works so well because it all has to be screened for anthrax, but I'm true.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I'm sure.
I sent priority mail letters to everybody, and none of them got delivered. So I would just suggest the email, a phone call, and a Twitter tweet. If you can get to a town hall meeting, that's highly effective. And if you can get a meeting with your district field office, highly effective.
And it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
And plus it's a real learning experience. I mean, this is how our government works. We have a democracy, and with democracy, you must participate. It's been a big learning experience for me as to how legislation gets passed. Let's see. So I said the town hall meetings and the field district office meetings. Oh, and I just want to leave with, if your representative or your senator is already a co-sponsor, say thank you. Thank you for co-sponsoring the Lymphedema Treatment Act. It means a lot to me and my family. That's what they need to hear.
And that goes a long ways, because then they know they're going to continue to support this.
Yes.
Because we have to get this and keep this.
Yes. So I think really everything, most of the resources, there's also a reach and rally campaign, and that is to make phone calls to key members of the House and the Senate who are on the committees that will get this bill through the process so that it can go to the floor for a vote, get passed, and signed into legislation. We very much need to do that this year. We've been doing this for quite a while, and a lot of people feel that it is our time, but we can't let up on the pressure. It's the pressure I saw something that said lymphedema, constant pressure. It's a little pun on our compression garments.
Right.
But that is how this is 100% volunteers, grassroots effort. There is no office, nobody's paid. We all do this because we care.
And we all have our good days and our bad days. And, so, we all have to do this for each other, for ourselves, for each other. We all have to do this. And again, if you have any questions, I'm going to have links below this. Click on them. Do research and reach out. It's not hard. I'm the type of person that I get nervous, or I think, oh, I don't know, or whatever. And don't, because every single one of us has a part to play in this. And your one phone call, your one meeting could change it. You could have what it takes. They could see you and hear your story and go, oh man, I need to do this. I don't know why it didn't occur to me before. So you don't know what you have. And I can't emphasize enough how easy this is. Because again, I'm the type of person that I get an email this long and I get overwhelmed and I think, oh, I'm not good enough at this. I'm not, I don't know. But no, it's not. It's really, really easy. You don't have to know a lot. All you have to know is, I have lymphedema and I need you to support this. It's all you have to know.
Or my mother has lymphedema, or my father has lymphedema, or the person who lives next door has lymphedema, and I see, that person, really struggles, and we need this bill passed.
This lady that comes into my store, this man that whatever. If your friend asks you to watch this video, if someone shared this video with you and you don't have lymphedema, they shared it with you because they thought you could help us, and we know you can. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It really doesn't. And we all appreciate you and each other, and we can do this together. And like you said, this is the time. We've got to get this passed now. We've been playing games long enough. We're running out of time.
No, midterm elections are in November. We need to do this, I would say, no, at the latest September, because we've got to get this bill passed. We have the numbers, but now we've got to get it through the committee process. And the only way that's going to happen is if we keep making the calls and having our meetings and saying, we're not going away. We're not going away.
And there's a lot of us.
Constant pressure.
Constant pressure.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much. This was amazing, and I really enjoyed this, and I really look forward to this, and I hope that this brought enlightenment and showed people what was really out there. So thank you so much, Pat.
And thank you, Peggy. This is a tremendous service, what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching today, and I appreciate having Pat on. She had some amazing things to tell us. And again, everything is in the links below. You guys have a great week, and I'll be uploading soon.